this podcast. I'm Ezra and I'm joined by Caleb. Caleb, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, excited because it's the finally Game Award season
Yeah,
officially now.
yeah, we're
We are in the
we're
heart of it.
yeah, it's very much, there are still games coming out, but most of them have already made it happen and yeah, so we'll see. So yeah, today, Monday, November 13th, Jeff Keighley
Hmm.
announced what the nominees are for the Game Awards. So I was thinking, we would go through and cast our own votes,
Hmm.
and because um, there is that aspect of it, but also Caleb doesn't know what's been announced as far as the nominees go, so
That's right.
I will be revealing live to him what was nominated for every category. So that'll
And
that'll be
and
fun.
and to keep myself from looking before I vote, I will have you list those nominees off before I look
Okay,
at them.
okay, that
That
makes
way,
sense.
you get the freshest of freshest
Yeah,
reaction that way. So,
yeah. I do know. I do know. I didn't like memorize it, so I won't
hmm
have like a clear picture of what's going on. But yeah, I'm excited to dive in. So yeah, we're going
yeah.
to
Me, I mean,
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was just gonna say I'm pretty excited. I mean, I know nothing as far as I just got home from work, so literally I just got home and started recording. So literally I know
Nice.
nothing. I have not checked my phone. So yeah, I'm going in completely blind. You're going to hear some probably some hot takes, or
Yeah.
either either some hot takes or me cheering the whole time. Who
Yeah,
knows?
it might be a little bit of both. Yeah.
Oh, that's
I
probably
could see that.
probably so.
All right, so we're going to start with most anticipated game.
Okay.
And we're gonna kind of work backwards from there to get to the end with game of the year. So we're gonna skip all of the esports categories too, because neither of us are super familiar with that. So
Yeah.
uh, Evo should win best event, but that's my bias showing. All right, so for most anticipated game, the nominees are Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hades
That's
2,
right.
Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Star Wars Outlaws, I actually forgot that existed,
Oh,
and
wait, which
Tekken
one is
8.
that one?
It's the Ubisoft open world Star Wars game.
That hasn't had an actual trailer?
It has art. I don't remember
Yeah,
if it
but
has a
it
trailer.
I don't think it does, which is weird.
Outlaws. Oh no, it does have a trailer.
Oh yeah, it does. It does. I did see the
These
trailer.
are
Never mind.
dangerous
I
times.
remember it now.
Yeah.
Kind of shows you how
Off my
anticipated it
ship,
is on
Dylan.
my list, but
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna be a Ubisoft open world. It doesn't sound
yeah.
super interesting. Maybe it'll still be good, but yeah. So, I mean, I'm gonna vote for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth just because, like,
Me too.
that's very much what I want to win. I'm not super invested in the most anticipated category, but I do think that overall, it's probably Final Fantasy is probably the favorite,
Yeah.
just because like Hades is popular, but it's not.
Right.
Uh, I don't think it has that same like mainstream pull. Like a Dragon is not is a bit more on the um it's a bit more on the for fans only side of the spectrum.
Right. And honestly, they've had, I think, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong here, but I'm pretty sure Like a Dragon has had so many releases in the past couple of years. It's like I don't know the anticipation level
Yeah, I mean, I think
towards that.
people are really excited for
Right.
every Like a Dragon game that comes out, but the the series has definitely, and you could say this about a lot of different
Right.
franchises, but that series particularly suffers a little bit from being so long running that
Yeah.
unless you like pick a specific starting point, you're gonna be missing out on some stuff. Star Wars Outlaws, I mean, we talked about that being pretty pretty uninteresting. Honestly, I'm
Mm.
surprised it made it on this list.
I'm surprised it made it on the list too.
I would have thought Persona 3 Reload would have been a better
Maybe
pick.
because, well, maybe because it's a remake.
Oh, but
But
Seven
technically,
Rebirth
FF7
is
is.
also
Yeah.
like that it
I guess.
doesn't really follow.
Yeah.
I Yeah, it's weird. And then Tekken 8 makes some sense to me. Tekken
Yeah.
is one of the biggest fighting game franchises. It's like the second biggest after Street Fighter, if you don't count Smash, I guess. Uh, so yeah, I mean that makes sense to me. So
Yeah. To me, hands down, it's. I think this one's going to be the easiest
yeah,
Final Fantasy win of the
yeah,
night,
yeah,
if I had to guess.
yeah. It's possible. I
Mm.
think honestly, Hades is the biggest contender just because of
Oh
how
yeah,
big a showing it
100%.
had.
And it won
Uh,
Game of the Year.
no, it didn't. No,
I
that was
thought
the
it did.
year. That was the year.
Are you sure?
I am positive Hades never won Game of the Year.
Or is that the same year It Takes Two came out?
Yeah,
It
yeah,
might
it
have
was
been the same year.
2021. So yeah, I think It Takes Two won Game of the Year that
You know, never mind.
year.
Never
That
mind.
would have been a good that would have been a good timeline though.
Nope.
All right, so moving on. So okay, this is sort of our other kind of maybe not gimme, but a little bit easier. We have our best adaptation.
Hmm.
So this is anything from mostly TV and movies that were adaptations of a video game. So we
Hmm.
have Castlevania Nocturne, which is the Castlevania anime, Gran Turismo, The
Hmm.
Last of Us from HBO, the Super Mario Brothers movie, and Twisted Metal. And I'm going to vote for Super Mario Bros, but I honestly think Last of Us has this in the bag.
I am 100% conflicted on this one. This one's a tough one for me. It's very 50-50 because I love the Last of Us show. I thought it was great. And I also loved Mario. I thought it was great. Both of them were they're definitely top contenders of the best things I watched this year.
Yeah.
So it's really tough. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
To decide as far as this one's tough. I'm like literally
Yeah.
trying to think it out, like which one, because it's like the first 3 episodes of The Last of Us overshadow Mario.
Yeah.
But as I think as a whole series, because
Sure.
by the after the third episode, it really gets to pretty much a direct adaptation
Mhm.
of the game. It's like the first 3 episodes is when they like do stuff different, and I liked what they did differently. Yeah, I think I got to give it to Mario, which is sad.
Wow.
Not sad, but it's more surprising the more I think about it. But I
Sure.
got to give it to Mario right now because I mean, as much as I love The Last of Us, I think as an overall product, I mean, Mario had me smiling throughout the whole entire movie.
Yeah.
I had such a blast with it. It was like there were so many things that could have gone wrong in that movie,
Yeah.
and like it was just a perfect picture, like as far as an adaptation goes. So
Yeah.
as far
As
while
good
also
a
giving it its own story too.
yeah.
So
Yeah, as good
I
a
got
movie as Mario could possibly have gotten, I think.
right, and that's the other thing to think about because Mario is pretty um, set in stone with the
Yeah.
type of stories it has. So it's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they didn't necessarily have too much of a footprint as The Last of Us did.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I got to give it to Mario.
Yeah.
I got to give it to Mario.
I also think that Mario really succeeds at the visual element of
Mm,
the Mario franchise,
yeah.
which is, with and The Last of Us did a really good job with like the mimicry of it, but since the game was already
Mm,
using a bunch of like film and TV techniques, it's kind of
right.
it's less uh I think it's a little bit less impressive when
Yeah.
DreamWorks actually, or not DreamWorks, Illumination actually went in and did a lot of work to make sure their visual style meshed with the Mario
Right.
franchise. And so, yeah, that definitely went pretty well. So, all right. So, our next category is Best Multiplayer. So it's not necessarily online exclusive multiplayer, um,
Hmm.
but uh, it is any game that has a prominent multiplayer component.
Multiplayer. Yeah.
So we have Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo
Okay.
4, Party Animals,
Okay.
Street Fighter 6, and Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
Ooh. Ooh. They had to
So
throw the curveball of wonder at the end
yeah,
there, didn't
this
they?
is a toss up to me between BG3 and Wonder. Uh, and I'm I actually haven't I've played Street Fighter 6 and I like Street Fighter. So I'll just vote for it since it's the only one I've played. But I got to be honest, I don't I think because we've gotten a similar style of multiplayer from the Mario series
Hmm.
before, I'm gonna give it to Baldur's Gate
That's
because yeah, go ahead.
oh yeah, I was going to say that's exactly what I was going to say. Like I've played Mario Wonder, so it's going to be the game that I'm going to choose out of this bunch.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I mean, it's clear as day. To me, Baldur's Gate is the one that's more innovative as a multiplayer than the
Yeah,
rest,
yeah. I mean, the
and
fact
that's
that
just
you
my
can,
opinion.
yeah, the fact that it is basically just a video game D&D campaign
Hmm.
is is impressive in its own right, but the fact that you could do that with friends is equally like, oh, that's really cool. I haven't tried it, so I don't know exactly what it entails, but it does sound really fun. All right, let's move on. This one should be relatively uninteresting. This is best sports and racing. So this is between
Gotcha.
EA Sports FC 24, F1 23, Forza Motorsport, Hot Wheels Unleashed 2 Turbocharged, and the Crew Motorfest. I voted for Hot Wheels 2 just because the other ones are all relatively bland as far as I can tell. The Crew maybe has some of that
Yeah.
flair, but Hot Wheels is going to have the most like style and substance as far as I can tell. Yeah,
Yeah. I'm gonna do the same thing.
and I think
Not much to say there,
yeah,
but
I honestly think last year was a better time for
100%.
racing fans. And yeah, I think this year's is kind of a
And
gap year.
sports.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. Um, all right, so best sim strategy. This
Okay.
is you know, strategy RPGs or real time strategy games, not necessarily all turn based RPGs, but because I'll spoil it now, Baldur's Gate is not on this list. Um,
Oh, interesting.
so that's yeah. So let's take a look. This is we'll start with Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp, which is
Oh, is that
honestly
the?
it's the remake. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the game that was delayed due to the Ukraine war
yeah, yeah,
for so long, and it was honestly there was talk that it's likely not even going to release,
yeah,
but it
and
ended up releasing
yeah, thankfully it came out, and
quietly.
yeah, I mean I think it's on this list partly because there wasn't a whole lot in the way of strategy
Hmm.
games this year or sim
Yeah.
games. Because I remember it coming out and people being a little bit apprehensive about how the games have aged. But yeah, the next one is City Skylines 2, Company of Heroes 3, the first appearance of one of my personal game of the year contenders, Fire Emblem Engage, and
Oh,
Pikmin 4.
okay.
Fire Emblem Engage, that's a game that I really loved. I actually really liked the narrative, even though a lot of people didn't like the
Hmm.
narrative very much. Um, and yeah, I mean, it was great. It was great. It was a great game.
I mean, I haven't played Fire Emblem Engage. I do have it. I got it a couple months ago, and it is earmarked on the list of games that I want to
Yeah,
play. Um, but to me, looking at these nominees, I don't even think there's any competition. I think Fire Emblem wins this
I
hands
think
down.
I to me it's between Fire Emblem and Pikmin because I know
Yeah,
Pikmin got a
well, I don't,
lot of positive buzz when it came out.
but I think it died so quickly. I
That's
Fire
true
Emblems
too.
was much longer, and it
Yeah,
had much bigger anticipation level to it too. So the lead up and the aftermath was, I thought, was much more solid than
I can
Pikmin.
agree. I can agree with that. I can agree with that. Yeah, we'll see. I'm not. Yeah, and I could see City Skylines winning this. I think that game has had enough like post-launch shenanigans that it might not be able to eke it out. And Company of Heroes 3, I mean, I don't think I've ever heard people even talk about that game. I have a free
Yeah, I've
copy of
never
it
heard of it.
actually because I got it with when I built my PC. I think one of the parts came with a
Oh,
free copy of it. But yeah. All right, let's move on. Best family. This one, is it's one of the weirdest categories because they don't have like best adult game. Like that's because that would be stupid.
right.
Um, but yeah, this one is Disney Illusion Island. That one's
Okay.
actually a Mickey Mouse platformer that actually looks pretty cool. Party Animals, Pikmin 4, Sonic Superstars, and Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Uh, I'm I haven't played it. I'm gonna vote for Mario. I think just the fact that they were able to impress people with a new 2D Mario the way they were able to
Yeah,
was really cool. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, I've played it so far. I'm loving it. I think it's a great family game. Honestly, this is a tough one to decide, but if I'm going to give Mario Wonder, I mean, I gave Mario Wonder. What was the other category Mario Wonder was in. No, I didn't give it to Mario Wonder. What did
Yeah,
I
you
do?
gave it to
Hold on.
Baldur's Gate in the
Yeah, I gave.
multiplayer.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, it's got to be Mario Wonder. For
Yeah.
me, this one. I don't know if it'll win. I think it's highly likely it'll win. But this one is the first, like one of the ones where I'm like, I'm not sure who's going to win this
Yeah.
one.
No, that's fair. All right, moving on. Best fighting. Uh,
Okay.
this is it's usually a pretty small category. Often they kind of pull in games that you wouldn't consider a fighting game to kind of pad out. And I'm not sure if that happened this year, but we have God of Rock, Mortal Kombat 1, Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2, Pocket Bravery, and Street Fighter 6. And I voted for Street Fighter 6.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
and I think that's
go
probably going to
ahead.
be the one to win.
I think so too. I mean, none of those launched well,
Yeah.
besides Street Fighter 6.
Yeah.
So,
I
I
would
mean,
say MK has had decent legs, and I mean the Switch version was kind of its own controversy for sure.
right.
So I think that hinders it, but I think it still has a chance. But yeah, I think Street Fighter 6, I mean the redemption story of that game where Street Fighter 5 was just such a bummer on launch, and
Hmm.
then, this game comes out and it really kind of knocks the socks off of everybody. Yeah. Yeah, just got to give it to Street Fighter. All right, we're starting to kind of get into it now. So this is best RPG.
Alrighty. All right. I'm ready. I'm ready for the hot takes to begin.
Yeah, we're gonna kind of get into it here. So, Baldur's Gate 3, obviously.
Okay.
Final Fantasy 16.
Okay. Okay. All right. No more. I already know what I'm voting. I'm
Lies of
just
P.
joking.
Sea of
Uh
Stars. And Starfield.
huh. Ooh.
Now this is
Ooh.
kind of a contentious category, if I do say so myself. This is quite the stacked list. Um, I FF16. I'm gonna give it to. There's another timeline where I actually played Baldur's Gate, and I would have given it to Baldur's Gate probably. But I'll give it to Baldur's Gate. There's also a timeline where I actually finished Sea of Stars because I started that game, but I
Mm.
didn't really. I don't know. It just didn't keep me coming back. Um, so yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, to me, yeah. This one's stacked. I mean, I could see them all winning. To be
yeah.
honest. Um. So.
I mean, to me, Baldur's Gate 3 is kind of the obvious pick. Um,
I agree. I don't. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is going to be the type of thing where I say like Final Fantasy 16 is the second game of the year for me, so like,
yeah,
I'm going to have a really high bias against Final Fantasy 16, but
sure.
I think it's possible they win this one.
Okay,
I think
yeah,
they do.
okay. I could see it. All right. Best action adventure, yet another extremely stacked category. All right, so we got Alan Wake 2,
Okay.
Marvel's Spider-Man 2,
Okay.
Resident Evil 4, Jedi Survivor,
No.
and The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
Ooh.
And I think this
This one's
is
a pretty
our
stacked one too.
yeah, I think this is
Except
also
Jedi
our
Survivor.
first divergence, right? Uh, unless I'm wrong.
Yeah, this is probably our first divergence. Yeah, I agree.
Because
Like our first like true
yeah,
like we'll be dead set against each other in
yeah,
this
because
regard.
I'm voting for Tears of the Kingdom, and you're voting for Spider-Man.
100% I'm voting for Spider-Man. I will say the Jedi Survivor does not deserve to be in this
Yeah,
category
that kind of
of
threw me when I saw it.
high caliber games. And then like you got all these great ones, and then there's Jedi Survivor,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
which I'm
think
like,
honestly, I would have put. I might have put FF16 on here
right,
instead. There's not a lot of like traversal and puzzle solving in that game, but
yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I
there's a
don't
lot
know.
of traversal.
There is a lot of walking around. That's true.
You know,
I don't know
I
if
would say
that's
it's
a
no bigger.
strength of the game.
I would say it's no bigger than Jedi Survivor,
Sure.
but there's more puzzle solving in Jedi
Yeah,
Survivor,
that might have been what pushed it over the edge.
probably.
Um.
But yeah, I voted Spider Man too.
Okay.
No doubt on that one by my book. And I
Fair.
think it'll win it too. Hot take.
That's
This is where it begins.
interesting. That is super interesting because I think I don't know. That one it's really that one is really contentious. Um, I honestly I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. All right, best action game: Armored Core
Okay.
6: Fires of Rubicon, Dead Island 2, Ghost
Ooh.
Runner 2,
Yikes.
Hi-Fi Rush, and Remnant.
That's such a weird. There were so many action games this year that they.
It's extremely
That's
strange
a.
that FF16 is not on this list. I have to say.
It's yeah, I would agree. And then on top of that, Dead Island 2. Like,
Yeah, I forgot that came out.
not only that, it was bad.
Oh,
It was notoriously bad.
oh,
Um,
yeah. Why is Dead Island 2 on here and not Spider Man?
that's what I'm saying. None of this makes sense. Armored Core makes sense, and
Armored
so
Core
does
makes
Hi-Fi
sense.
Rush.
Hi-Fi Rush makes sense. And then Remnant
I don't
2.
know much about Ghost Runner 2.
I think that's it's. It says it's a Gearbox. Gearbox
Uh,
published it, so it is probably some kind of shooter. So fair enough. And Ghost Runner makes sense. I would have maybe swapped Remnant and Dead Island with FF16 and Spider Man. Um,
hmm.
but
I almost wonder if they can't overlap, like in these type of categories, genre categories.
yeah, maybe they were really focused on differentiating action from action adventure.
Right.
Because that is a thing. Like I would call if I were given a choice, I would call Devil May Cry and Kingdom Hearts 2 action games, and uh, I would call like Zelda. Uh, I would call Tears of the Kingdom an action adventure game
hundred
for
percent.
sure. So like yeah, it
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, I mean I voted for Hi-Fi Rush. I loved that game.
Yeah.
It honestly was like this year was so stacked. There are games that I played earlier in the year that I like forgot came out this year because games I played later on made
Hmm.
a stronger impression on me. But when I played those games, I was in love with them. Uh, and Hi-Fi Rush is one of them. Hi-Fi Rush was so good. Highly recommend to
Hmm.
anybody who enjoys an action game. Um, all right, this one. Honestly, I would feel a little content to skip this one, but we'll list it anyways. This is best
Sure.
VR and AR.
Hmm.
We got Gran Turismo 7, Horizon
Okay.
Call of the Mountain, Humanity, Resident Evil Village VR mode, and Synapse. Uh, I'm I'm just gonna vote for Resident Evil
Me too.
because I think the gaming, the like industry people who are going to be voting on this are definitely like RE people.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that one's just going to win to me.
I agree.
Um, all right, moving on. Best mobile game. We got Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis.
Oh, hey, it got in there.
We got
I wasn't
Hello.
sure about that one.
We got Hello Kitty Island Adventure. Honkai Star
Okay.
Rail.
Okay.
Monster Hunter Now,
Okay.
which is Pokemon but Monster Hunter, and
Uh-huh.
Terra Nil. Don't know anything about that game.
Don't know
Um,
anything about that one.
I'm giving it to Honkai Star Rail. You can watch. There are like 2 videos on my channel that you can watch that explain why I might think such a thing. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I'll do this in solidarity for you as well
I
because
appreciate that.
I was not happy with Ever Crisis, but
Yeah.
that's a me thing. More
Fair.
of just the way the game is just like takes up way too much space, and it's like in order to
Yeah.
play one story, you have to download that story, like each separate story. It was just yeah, I
Too
can't even
much.
enjoy the game.
Yeah.
That's why I out of sheer protest, I will be in solidarity with Ezra on this one.
Nice.
I haven't played the rest, so that's why.
Yeah.
But I can't give it to Ever Crisis right now.
Fair is fair. All right. All right. Next category is best debut indie game. So this is indie studios that released their first ever game this year. So there are plenty of
Okay.
like Sea of Stars is an indie game, but that team had released another game before, so they're
Hmm.
excluded. So the
Gotcha.
list is Cocoon,
Hmm.
Dredge, Pizza Tower, Venba, and the Viewfinder. Uh,
I
I've
don't know any of these titles.
I'm going to recuse myself from this one because I do not know any of them. If I had to guess, I'm gonna say Pizza Tower because I know a lot of people really loved that game. Um, like I know that like a lot of people were like, yeah, if you like platformers, you should play Pizza Tower.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that one has a pretty good shot, but it could be all of them. Um, all right, and then off the back of that, we've got best independent game. We have a little bit of
Okay.
crossover here. We have Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, Sea of Stars, and Viewfinder. I think because Sea of Stars is on other in other categories,
Yeah,
I'm gonna give it to Sea of Stars.
I'll give it the Sea of Stars too. I mean, for those same reasons. I don't really have much other to say because
Yeah, yeah,
I also Sea of Stars is the only one I know out of
yeah,
all these.
yeah.
So
No, that's fair. Yeah, Sea of Stars. I was really looking forward to it because it was very clearly taking a lot of cues from Chrono Trigger, down to
mhm.
having the same composer. I think, um, but I don't know. Something just didn't really click with it for me. I just didn't
Mhm.
really fall into place. So maybe I'll go back to it at some point. Best community support. This is sort of, it's not exactly best ongoing game, but it's more like who has the best community,
Right.
I guess. So this
Well,
one
I
is,
would say community support would probably be more listening to fans and trying to
yeah,
update properly, and not necessarily that it's best ongoing, but it's more of yeah, we hear
yeah,
you and we receive your feedback
yeah.
type of thing.
So with that in mind, we've got Baldur's Gate 3,
Okay.
Cyberpunk 2077, Destiny
Okay.
2, which we'll come back to.
Ooh.
Final Fantasy 14 and No Man's Sky. So Destiny should be disqualified.
I agree.
I think like the recent weirdness surrounding the layoffs and just all of that. I think there's no sense in Destiny even being on this list because if they were to I don't necessarily think they would win but if they were to somehow win, it would seem so weird for some Bungie exec to get up on stage and receive the award when like all of this just happened a couple weeks ago. Uh, I'm gonna give it to Final Fantasy 14 just because I
Me too.
know how passionate that community is and how
Hmm.
generally positive it is.
Yep.
Um, but I could see any of these winning aside from Destiny. Um,
Here's my thing about Baldur's Gate, and well, I don't, and this is where the definition of best community support would probably I might disagree
sure,
with the Game Awards committee on this, but the reason why I'm on the fence on it because Baldur's Gate only came out about 2 months ago, and like even though this isn't best ongoing, and I'm not trying to determine it as best ongoing, I'm trying to
sure,
more determine on what they did to listen to fans and everything. Um, yeah, I don't think I think Baldur's Gate is too new for that.
sure. That's
You know what
fair.
I'm saying?
That is entirely fair.
If it was in May or even February, like the earlier half of this year, I would be like, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Baldur's Gate would probably get it, but as far as my definition of it, you know what I mean. I would give it more to either Cyberpunk or Final Fantasy 14, and
yeah,
this is where the fan will come out in me and say Final Fantasy 14. Like
yeah,
there's just for me, I think you have a tougher argument with Cyberpunk and Final Fantasy 14 with
yeah.
ongoing rather than community support.
Sure. Well, I think to me, part of it is like the road has been so much longer for Final Fantasy, right? Because they were very much in a similar
Exactly.
position at launch. But Cyberpunk came out 2 years ago, and like that,
And I think
or
the other
maybe
thing
no,
is
it
that
was 3 years ago. But like to have that, um, like that up against 14's like close to 10 years now. I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is I think FF14 is more committed to adding more content. Um, Whereas I think Cyberpunk, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong on this,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, they did come out with stuff this year.
Yeah.
I think they, from I think what I heard was that, or read, I should say, is that Cyberpunk will be moving away from the game itself to work on whatever they're going to follow up with now.
Yeah. And
So
doing
they're on that
more.
phase of
Yeah.
right. So I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
to
We'll
me,
see.
it's like FF14 seems like they're more committed to the future and the long run of a game. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. We'll
I
see.
mean, that would be my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, FF14 is definitely in a spot where they're like, instead of making a new Final Fantasy MMO and putting a number behind it, they're like, we're just gonna let 14 keep going until it dies. Yeah. All right. So, our next category is best ongoing game, and uh, it's there's a little bit of uh, overlap, but not a whole ton.
Hmm.
So we've got Apex Legends, Cyberpunk 2077, Final
Hmm.
Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Genshin Impact. Um, honestly, I'm gonna give it to Fortnite.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't know. I think something about the way that Epic has managed to have like at any point I could decide to go back into Fortnite and
Hmm.
it wouldn't be because I'm bored, it would be because Fortnite has something new to it that I'm interested
Yeah.
in, right? And so like yes, it's not like really my kind of game. I have fun with it every once in a while, but it's not like
Hmm.
my thing. I think that like the success of Fortnite is the sort of long term like it's like in my peripheral vision in
Hmm.
case I am interested in case there is a Dragon Ball collab or if there's
Right.
there's something like that. Yeah. To me, that's like the biggest draw of any game, and with and I will say I played a lot of Genshin when it first came out and fell off, and I try to go back to it every once in a while, and I am just so overwhelmed by that
Hmm.
game that it's hard for me to keep
Right.
going. If Honkai Star Rail was on this list, I would have given it to that in a heartbeat. Uh, but that game, mostly because that game, like, I really like the sort of daily flow that it has,
Hmm.
and the way in which like there is a separation between like the content and the grind in a way that Genshin it doesn't exactly feel that way. Um, but yeah. Anyways,
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Honestly, you brought up some really good points about Fortnite. It was not going to be my first choice there. I was
mm-hmm.
actually going to give the edge to Cyberpunk, but the
Sure,
more you pointed that out, I was like, yeah, no, I agree with that because they're always changing things. Always changing things. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, right, we're going back to the original, but like that's only for a limited time, and it's meant to be a special thing.
yeah,
To so I think Fortnite's gonna wins it out for me.
and I think Fortnite will
I don't know if it'll
continue to
win.
win. I don't know. I think it's won every year it was nominated. I
That's
could be
true.
wrong about that, but I think it has. Um, yeah, that game is very much like the way that I tend to think about Fortnite is the critics of it are the people who don't play it.
Yeah.
Because if you play Fortnite, you at least get an understanding. Like, yeah, this isn't maybe my cup of tea, but I can see why people enjoy it so much.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Next category is games for impact.
Okay.
Uh, this is to me. This has always kind of been a bit of a cringe category. I gotta
Hmm.
say, just because like if these games had such a massive impact as this category would suggest, they would be in Game of the Year. Like to me,
It's a good point.
this is like trying to um it's like a weird separation of like games like quote unquote games that mean something and fun games. It's like no, both can be true. And I would say like Near Automata is actually a really good example of that, where that game is actually
Hmm.
fun to play, but it also does have genuine impact and meaning.
Right.
And like yeah, so let's go through the nominees. Anyways, Space for the Unbound, Chance
Hmm.
of Sinar,
Hmm.
Goodbye Volcano High, Chia, Terra Nil, and Venba. Um, I've heard So Chia is kind of the only one I'm familiar with.
I
And
don't know any of these.
yeah, I haven't played any of them. I know Chia, like the whole point of it was kind of, I don't remember what the community was, like what the name of it was, but like the dev team like went in and studied the community that they were trying to represent. Um,
Mm,
so like that's pretty cool. I don't know the rest of these really at all. I think yeah, I wouldn't be able to properly predict or
yeah.
vote for any of them. Um, all right, innovation and accessibility. This is this is the category that is more focused on like getting as many people to
Hmm.
be able to play it as possible. Um, Kind of the opposite of what From Software fans want. Uh,
Yeah.
so we got Diablo 4, Forza Motorsport, Hi-Fi Rush, Spider-Man 2, Mortal Kombat 1, and Street Fighter 6. I gotta be honest, any fighting game that is in this list, I'm a bit skeptical of
Hmm.
because I'm pretty sure I know what Street Fighter 6's accessibility features are, and they would not put you on an equal playing field with somebody who has more control over their body or whatever it happens to be. And Hi-Fi Rush 2 doesn't strike me as a particularly accessible game.
No, because it's very, it's very. I mean, it's inherently a rhythm game.
Yeah, and like
You know what
that's
I'm saying?
yeah, like there's not a lot you can do to make that easier for somebody who has a hard time hearing or has a hard time with
Right.
um,
Rhythm. Like,
rhythm, hand-eye coordination. Like there's all sorts of
right.
things. Like with there are games where it's like your hand-eye coordination helps, but it's not super
Hmm.
important, right? Like I think Spider-Man is a good example of a game where it's like you don't have to
Right.
be super good at video games to beat Spider-Man 2,
Right.
but it helps, and ways that you can kind of alleviate that difference are good. With Hi-Fi Rush, it's like that's an action game with a rhythm game
Hmm.
kind of built into it. It's kind of hard to, I don't know. I think personally, I think Sony's work in this area has been really
Yeah.
effective. So that's kind of where I see
That's
them
that's
going.
exactly what I was going to say. Like, I haven't played the other games to give a definitive answer on this one, but like I played Spider-Man 2. I
Yeah.
know that there was a huge commitment to accessibility being like even in the front thing as soon as you open up in the game.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of games do that, but I'm just saying like it was a little bit more detailed. Um,
Yeah.
I can't say for sure, the accessibility settings on Spider-Man 2 because I didn't really change much. But the one thing that I can say is that, like you said, Sony has really committed to over the past few years to really be innovative through its
Yeah.
accessibility settings. I mean, we've seen it with The Last of Us, and
Yeah.
so I'm just like, to me, I got to give it to Spider-Man 2, and this could be
Yeah.
my
That's
lack of knowledge in this area,
that is entirely
but
fair.
I think, and then also there's also the new controller that was. I mean, this isn't has anything to do with Spider-Man 2, but
Yeah.
it is from Sony with
Yeah.
the new accessibility controller. I don't know how effective it is, but I
Sure.
know that at least they're committed to. Sony
Yeah.
as a company is committed to finding more innovative ways for that. So
Well, and yeah, I
I
mean,
I think I'm giving more of a company vote than I am as a game vote.
sure. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I think it does speak to kind of two different approaches that they were taking though, where
Mm,
Xbox was content to say we're going to make this controller that you can then customize, and because they had
true.
that project where it was like we're gonna let you just sort of customize your controller to however you need to make
Hmm.
yourself able to play video games. And Sony was more interested in saying, let's bake these into the games themselves.
Yeah.
And now they have that new accessibility controller, which I haven't heard a whole ton about, but
Me neither.
is probably a boon to people who have certain issues regarding that. So, yeah, I mean, we would have to talk to somebody who knows a lot about this specific topic to know
Damn.
where to go with this. But my head says Spider-Man 2, just given
Me
Sony's
too.
track record. All right. Best performance.
Okay.
So this is voice acting, motion capture, the whole
Okay.
9 yards. We got Ben Starr for Final Fantasy
Okay.
16.
Good. Good. I was
Honestly
worried
deserved.
he wouldn't get it,
Yeah.
but I'm glad. I'm glad he got the nominee.
Oh yeah, for sure. Cameron Monaghan for Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Okay. Okay. I could get. I could see it. I could get behind it.
Idris Elba for Knuckles. No, for Cyberpunk. Uh,
For Knuckles, yes. I don't know about Cyberpunk. I haven't
for
played it.
honestly, I would probably give it to Idris Elba for Knuckles. No, that's probably not true. Melanie LeBird for Alan Wake 2.
Okay.
Neil Newborn for Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay.
And Yuri Lowenthal for Spider-Man 2. And
I knew that was coming.
yeah, so I'm gonna vote for Yuri Lowenthal just because I want Yuri Lowenthal to win, because I like him as a voice
Uh
actor,
huh.
um, and I mean even then I would still probably give it to him just because his performance as Peter Parker and symbiote Spider-Man was so good. Uh,
Mhm.
like it's it's pretty impressive how he managed to make Peter he made Peter's descent feel,
It felt like a progression.
yeah, it felt like a progression, and it felt like you kind of start to notice stuff, and then
Hmm.
like yeah, there's just a whole lot. Like his performance was so good. There's his performance, I mean, throughout the whole game, I mean, the the performances in general were all great.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would give it. I would stack this list with all of the Spider-Man actors if I could.
Yeah.
But the yeah, for me, it's got to go to Yuri Lowenthal. I think honestly, I think to me because Yuri Lowenthal and Ben Starr are both the only two that are present. I guess Cameron Monaghan too. That are no, that's not true. Okay, I'm gonna take that back because that's true about Melanie LeBird as well. I I don't see Neil Lawson winning for Baldur's Gate 3 just
Hmm.
because as popular as that character is, I think there are so many other characters and pieces of the world and just other aspects of Baldur's Gate 3 that he's not it doesn't seem like he kind of carries it the same way in my mind. Um, Ben Starr, I honestly could see it. I mean, there are some great moments in that game.
Hmm.
Um, the rest of them, I don't know. The rest of them, it feels a little bit like they didn't want to put game people from the same games in
Hmm.
in
Which
the
they've done
list.
before.
Yeah, which they have done before. Probably not to super
Yeah. I mean,
good
well, think
reception.
about it. Think about it. With Christopher Judge and God, his name's escaping me right now. But
Yeah.
Loki. Why am I forgetting his name? Um, I mean, there was no question. I mean, if anybody was going to win in that God of War category, from God of War, it was going to be Christopher Judge
Yeah.
because he didn't win it the last time. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I gotta say, so my opinion is interesting because I'm kind of going back and forth. I'll be honest with
Mm-hmm.
you. I think it comes down to two and only two. Like Cameron Monaghan will probably get some strong traction just because I know a lot of people love Jedi Survivor. Like I said, I am not in that camp as much. I thought
Mm-hmm.
Monaghan's performance was great in it, but
Yeah.
again, that goes into a whole discussion there. But it really goes down to Ben Starr and Yuri Lowenthal, and for the reasons I would give the other, I would still give them. You know what I'm saying? So like I think they both gave really strong performances. I think they God, why do I have to choose? Why do I have to choose?
Listen, just go with your heart. Just go with what your heart tells you.
I'm I think I might give it to Ben Starr.
Well,
I I think I might give it to Ben Starr.
fair enough.
Um
Fair enough. I
I
mean,
mean,
Ben
go ahead.
Starr's Ben Starr single-handedly makes Final Fantasy 16 story bearable to me. Like
Hmm.
without that performance, I think that narrative would not have landed the same way.
I can somewhat agree with that. Yeah, I mean,
Not that the other actors were doing bad, just like
right.
because the entire game is Clive's,
Hmm.
it's like it was so important to get that right, and he did. So it was like that really benefited his uh, that really benefits his standing in my mind for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Yuri does a fantastic job, and he did an excellent job with the symbiotes. Like I said, I it's so tough to me, but I got to give it to Ben Starr just because,
No, I think that's
like you
fair.
said,
I think it's fair.
if like you said, if it wasn't for him, that game would not work, especially probably more towards the beginning of that game.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
like you
Later
really buy
on,
in
yeah. Yeah, I think
to.
later on a lot of the performances kind of come into their own.
Mhm.
Um and part of it is just like you've gotten used to those characters, but
Right.
yeah, I think for sure Ben Starr really carries the early game um, quite a lot. All right, let's move on. We got best audio design. This
Okay.
one only has 4 nominees, which is or not four,
That is
five,
interesting.
5 nominees. We've got Alan Wake 2, Dead
Okay.
Space. It's the Dead Space remake. Hi-Fi Rush, Spider-Man 2, and Resident Evil 4. I gotta say, it's so I'm gonna vote for Spider-Man 2 because it's the only one I've actually no. I'm gonna change it to Hi-Fi Rush just because I think
Yeah.
Hi-Fi Rush, like the way that like music is
Hmm.
quite literally
Integrated.
the
Yeah.
beating heart of that game's world is
Hmm.
it's so well done, so great. Um, I think
Yeah.
personally, Resident Evil 4 is going to win, but could be wrong.
That's true. It could be, but I agree with you. I think it's Hi-Fi Rush, and this is the first category where I could definitively say probably Spider-Man 2 is unlikely to
Sure.
get this one.
Yeah, Spider-Man 2 didn't feel like it had a whole like a bunch of
No. Eh,
innovation or anything like that.
no.
Yeah. All right, this one's going to be a little bit more contentious, I think.
Oh,
Best score
probably.
and music.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, this one, this is the type of category every year where I will definitively have one answer
Yeah,
each year. It doesn't matter what. I will definitively have that answer,
and the Game Awards always
and
goes the other direction.
they go the other way, and I get furious.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
this category is always presented before the show, but like it sets the tone for me because um, I know FF7 remake won one year. What was last year? I
Last
don't know
year,
if God
God
of
of
War
War
won last
won.
year.
God of War
Did
won
it?
last year. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
There was one
It
of
won
recent where I got
over.
furious of.
It won over Xenoblade, which
Okay.
I was sad about that because I was like, that's the only category it'll be any any game in, and no. Um, are you thinking of?
It might have been Kingdom Hearts, to be honest. I don't even know if it
That's
got
possible.
nominated.
That's possible. I don't know if it got
No, it got
nominated, but it
nominated.
probably
It
should
got
have.
nominated.
Um, I remember when I was thinking about last year how I felt like Sonic Frontiers should have gotten on the best soundtrack list and it didn't, and I was sad
Uh,
about that. Um, just because like that's the only category that game truly excelled in, but
uh-huh.
because like everything else was like very subjective. But yeah, all right. Here's our nominees list.
Okay.
I guess this is just five. I uh must have been crazy. Alan Wake 2, composed
Okay.
by Petri Alanko.
Okay.
Baldur's Gate 3, composed by Borislav Slavov. Sorry if
Okay.
I'm uh, completely butchering these. Final Fantasy 16, composed by Masayoshi Soken.
Good, 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 good. I'm liking this so far.
Hi-Fi
I'm liking
Rush,
this.
audio director
Okay.
Shuichi Kobori, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, composed by
What? Are you
the
kidding me?
Nintendo Sound
Are
Team.
you kidding me?
Yep.
How in the world? This is the first big snub. I'm going to say this right now. This is the first big snub. I'm already upset. I am upset
Yeah.
because the one that I was going to choose is not on that one, and that's surprising to say with Final Fantasy 6 being on there. But my
Yeah.
point is what in the world are you doing not putting Spider-Man 2 on there?
No,
Are you kidding
I
me?
think that's fair.
Are you
I think that's
kidding me?
I think that's fair.
The Craven theme alone wins that category. I'm just saying. Like
Man, now you know how I felt
like
last year.
I get about Zelda. Zelda makes sense. Final Fantasy 16 makes sense. Baldur's Gate 3, sure. I don't know. I didn't play it.
Honestly, what
What
I've
was the other
played
ones?
of Baldur's Gate, I wasn't super into the soundtrack, but maybe that's just a preference thing. We
And
got Alan
I
Wake
could get
2.
Hi-Fi Rush. I can get that. I
Yeah,
think the one that confuses me a little bit is Alan Wake 2, but again, I haven't played it. But
yeah,
if you had to bump out one, I would take out Alan Wake 2 and put Spider-Man 2 in
sure,
easily.
that's fair. So I'm very much kind of playing
I'm already
process of
furious.
elimination with this
Mm.
category. So Hi-Fi Rush, I'm gonna disqualify not because I think it's a bad soundtrack, but because the licensed music
Oh, that's a
aspect
good
of
point.
it doesn't like if they had like every song like because they did compose songs where the licensed music would play for
Mm.
that uh so like streamers could play it and stuff. But to me it's like if the licensed music was so integral, that's like what the soundtrack is, and to me that kind of disqualifies it just because it's not original music. um and again, it's expertly used, and I don't want that to like take away from Hi-Fi Rush. I just don't think it has that same like impact that a composed score for a game is going to have. Um, so for me, it's very much between FF16 and Tears of the Kingdom. And I really struggle with this
Mm-hmm.
because I think FF16 has a bunch of really good tracks,
Mm-hmm.
but not a whole lot of variety. At least in like the gameplay sections.
Mm-hmm.
With
Mm-hmm.
Tears of the Kingdom, you have sort of less overall like impactful tracks, but the ones that hit really hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm gonna give the edge to Zelda.
This is where it's tough for me. I'll say this right now. It's down to those two as well for me. Um, I know what I'm going to be choosing, but as far as like in an objective standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
they both are really strong contenders.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I'll be happy with either one win.
I would
I'll be more happy if.
honestly
Go ahead.
the only way this could go where I would be unhappy is if Alan Wake wins.
Yeah, I mean, I would be the same way. But I think the most that I would be happy with, to me, I would be upset if any of the other ones get it, besides Zelda or FF16. Now,
Sure.
for me personally, I have to go. I have to give it the FF16 as the edge, just because of the tracks that there is. And I agree with you on
That's
the
no, that's fair.
variety. I mean, I agree with you because it is a fair criticism. But of the tracks that there is, I love them.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
that's
they're
entirely
perfect.
fair. That
And
is
I
super
think,
fair.
and this is where I struggle with because I think Zelda's music, especially with Tears of the Kingdom, is already iconic. I mean, it's
Yeah.
been iconic and it's already iconic with this newest one. So I'm like,
No,
I
that's yeah.
struggle,
Yeah.
but I gotta give my personal bias in this one, and I gotta give
Sure.
it to FF16.
Sure.
But I would be
Yeah.
really happy if Zelda wins.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I
I'll just
think
put it at that point.
both of those games have narratives that I think could use some work, and those narratives are elevated a lot by their soundtracks, for sure.
Absolutely.
So I think there's definitely I think it's very much a toss up between them for me. Best art direction.
However, I would have given it to Spider-Man 2.
No, that's fair. That's fair. All right, best art direction. We got Alan Wake 2, Hi-Fi
Okay.
Rush, Lies of P,
Okay.
Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Um, this one's hard. I
This
think
one, go ahead.
so. I've only played Hi-Fi Rush and Tears of the Kingdom, and because Tears of the Kingdom took so many cues from Breath of the Wild, I'm gonna give
Hmm.
it to Hi-Fi Rush. Just because
Yeah,
Hi-Fi
this is
Rush is kind
tough.
of its own thing. Um, yeah,
Um, Liza P, I won't give it to because it's just a Dark Souls clone. So, God, what do I choose? What do I choose? I think I'm gonna go with because Mario, the art direction is part of its biggest charm,
sure.
like Super Mario Wonder.
Yeah,
Um, so I'm going to say, oh God, I mean it's part of both charms, I guess. Like Hi-Fi Rush, that's. I guess I'll give it a Hi-Fi Rush. I would be very happy if Mario Wonder wins. I think that would be maybe my personal one.
yeah,
But I think as a objective standpoint, I think what deserves it
Yeah.
is Hi-Fi Rush.
We need our friend Sawyer on here because he would be able to explain why Alan Wake 2 is so prominent.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because
See, that's
we haven't played
and I
Alan
believe him.
Wake. Yeah, no, I believe him. So I'm like, okay, yeah, because I've heard great things about Alan Wake. I just like to me, it's sort of off-putting because I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah.
All right, best narrative. This
Okay.
is not going to be contentious at all. We got Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty,
Okay.
Final Fantasy 16, and
Okay.
Marvel's Spider-Man 2. And yet again, we find Caleb in his conflicted state.
I'll tell you what I'm going to. No, this is in the same caliber as Game of the Year for me.
Yep.
Um, so it's tough for me to say. Um, but as far as narrative goes, oh god, this is so tough.
I
This is
will
really
say
tough.
this. My
I'm gonna
game of the
defer to you
year
first.
is not on this list, which I think is
Okay.
interesting. Uh, I'm gonna give it to Spider-Man because I think while I liked Final Fantasy 16's narrative, I didn't love it. And with Spider-Man 2, there was never a point that I felt like things were dragging on
Yeah.
or that there was something unnecessary. I felt I was happy the whole way through. I loved every second from a narrative standpoint. And yeah, I think there was just so much going for it and so many decisions that they made that felt brave, and that felt meaningful,
Right.
where FF16 felt at times felt a little safe in
Yeah.
its approach. And it's kind of weird to say for a game that broke the mold in so many ways, but
Well, I also
yeah.
think that the first 2/3 of that game is much stronger than its last
Yeah. Yeah.
act.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
So,
for sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
for me,
there's I have
all
this go ahead.
I was going to say all those reasons you just said, like that's where I'm going to give it to Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
Um, and as much as I loved FF16's narrative as a whole, there is
Yeah.
flaws within it, and
Yeah.
I gotta that's I gotta give it to Spider-Man 2 as well.
Yeah. No, that yeah, I agree. I think like with FF16 it's weird because they spend, like you said, they spend the first 2/3 of the game with this one vision, and then it shifts
Mm-hmm.
radically at the end. And that
Mm-hmm.
shift makes the rest of it feel a little bit pointless to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they don't get a lot of time to like develop that. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely got some issues. But I could see Baldur's Gate winning. I could see Alan Wake winning. Somehow I doubt Cyberpunk's gonna win.
Yeah,
I could be wrong, but I
it's
don't think
also a
that made.
DLC.
Yeah, it's so weird. I feel like the rules were broken with Cyberpunk this year. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think they wanted to give it another chance after the disaster
The
that was the
Yeah,
original launch. But yeah,
this is I would have had Zelda replace this spot. It was
I wouldn't
Cyberpunk.
have. I don't know
You
what I
think
would have
so?
replaced it as, but I don't think Zelda's story would have held up.
Gotcha.
Um,
That's a good point.
all right, we're down to our last two categories.
Okay.
So, and I think they're actually. Oh no, they're not. All right. So for best game direction,
Mm-hmm.
we have Alan Wake 2 from Remedy, Baldur's
Okay.
Gate 3 from Larian Studios,
Hmm.
Marvel's Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac Games, Super Mario Bros. Wonder from Nintendo, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom from Nintendo. And you know what? I'm just going to come out and say it. I got to give it to Tears of the Kingdom.
I mean, to me, I'm going to keep this short and sweet as well. Spider-Man 2 is a perfect game, and it's perfectly executed in pacing and
Yep.
narratively. So I gotta give it to Spider-Man 2.
All right.
I
And then,
There's not much for me to say other than all around. Yeah.
all right. And then moving on to Game of the Year.
Okay. Okay.
We
This is it.
have
All right.
we have Alan Wake
Okay.
2,
Oof.
Baldur's Gate 3,
Okay.
Resident Evil 4.
Oh man, I didn't think that would get it through. I thought I thought maybe it could as like a I thought maybe it would get in there if Alan Wake 2 didn't get in there.
Oh, interesting.
That was my thoughts. So that's interesting that they both got in there. But go ahead.
Super Mario Brothers Wonder,
Oh my god.
The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom,
Oh my god.
and Marvel's Spider-Man 2.
Are you kidding me?
Yep. Yep.
I'm furious.
No Final
I'm
Fantasy.
furious. Now, to me, it was already going to be Spider-Man 2
Sure.
for me, for Game of the Year.
But you just wanted some of that
But Final Fantasy
insurance.
16 deserved that spot.
You wanted insurance. You
Oh, I
wanted
don't need insurance. I have the I have the assurance that it should have been in there because like okay, all right. Now I'm upset. Okay, this is infuriating to me. You're gonna put
This year
you're
is
gonna
so
put
stacked, man.
yeah. I mean, it is stacked, but I don't know. I would have replaced Mario with FF16.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I mean it is fun. It's like it innovative, but
Wow.
this is
It's pretty
this is the
cutthroat.
personal bias in me, of me playing all of this stuff. Um, that makes me mad. I mean, guaranteed Spider-Man 2 is for me, and I think it's going to win it. I think it's
You
going to
think
win it. It
Spider-Man 2 is
scares
going to win?
absolutely,
Really?
absolutely, 100%. I'm locking that in. Yep. I think it's going
Wow.
to beat over Tears of the Kingdom, and I think it's going to beat over Mario Wonder.
You don't you
I,
don't
I
think Baldur's Gate's a shoe in?
I don't think a Baldur's Gate is shoe in. I think it's had a great launch, and it had some really good strong traction. I think the conversation around Baldur's Gate 3 has died down,
Sure.
as in, you know what I'm saying. But I'm just also at the same time,
I mean, you can
um,
say the same about all of these games.
yeah, you could say that all of these. I agree, but there's two in there that I think had the most impact out of the whole entire year. And I knew that going into this, this nominees list. And for me, to me, it's clear as day. The
Hmm.
top two contenders, Zelda and Spider-Man 2. As much as I would have loved to had Final Fantasy 16 in there,
Hmm.
I just wanted it to be, it's an honor to be nominated type of situation.
Sure.
Um, but as far as the clearest two that
You
has had
also,
traction over a
yeah.
month of just like post-launch, like um, post-launch. What's the term I'm looking for?
Hype, excitement,
Satisfaction,
satisfaction. Yeah.
and like people to this day still talk about how Tears of the Kingdom was, and
That's true.
Spider-Man 2, well, yes, it is newer. To me, there was no doubt in my mind that that was a perfect all-around game. I can't give any
Wow.
criticism to Spider-Man 2.
Wow.
So, I mean, for me, and I think it's Spider-Man 2's year. I do think it. I think if it wasn't for God of War being in the same year in 2018, Spider-Man could have edged out the win then.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
well, no, Breath of,
No, Breath
did
of the
Breath of
Wild
the
wasn't
Wild
that
come
year.
out?
No. Breath of the Wild was the year before.
Okay, yeah, I know God of War was the same year. I'm pretty sure. So my point is, I think it's Spider-Man's year to shine.
Wow.
Yep.
Hmm.
Sorry, Zelda.
Man. So to me, it's not a matter of. To me, it's Tears of the Kingdom feels impossible whenever I play it. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel like it should exist, and yet it does. And it's not only a, how do I put this? I don't know, it's just got so much that works and doesn't work, or and not, there's, it's got so much that like is in there, and so many different little mechanics and stuff, and somehow it all just functions on the Switch. And add to that like the amazing boss fights, and uh the soundtrack, just everything about it is so good and so spectacular that while I loved Spider-Man 2, and I'm sure I would have loved any of these games, to be honest. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if I were a horror guy, I think RE4 probably would have hit. Alan Wake 2 would have
Mm-hmm.
hit. If I had, I think at the time I just didn't have the bandwidth for Baldur's Gate 3, so maybe I'll hop back in at some point. Um,
Oh, absolutely. If it wins Game of the Year, I'll try it.
sure. Yeah, I
Maybe out
think
of spite, though.
yeah, I think there is a, to me, the conversation has very
Hmm.
much been dominated by Baldur's Gate 3. So that's like the, to me it's between Baldur's Gate and Zelda. That's like the, where the fight
Interesting.
is. And Spider-Man could win. I think again any of these games could win. I think Mario being a 2D Mario game kind of puts it down a peg,
Mm-hmm.
um, just because like it's not as surprising that it's good. Like, of course, a 2D Mario game is good, um, but
Right.
yeah, I think I could. This is a year where I can't really be mad that anything won. Where like
Mm.
with, I think it was 2020 when The Last of Us came out. Last of Us Part 2 came out, and it won, and I was like, man, couldn't you have picked something else? Like, don't you remember how poorly this all went when it came out? Like this year was so positive in general for the games industry. So many great games came out. Um, and yeah, I think like there's not, I honest to goodness, I think we could have gotten a completely different list, and I would not have
Mm.
been too terribly surprised. Um, I think there were some, like, again, I think Zelda and Baldur's Gate were probably the two that I would have carried across every single one. But you had stuff like Lies of P, Sea of Stars, Hi-Fi Rush, like so many different games that you could easily mix and match in the Game of the Year category. Um, that to me, it's like it's hard to say
Mm.
that any of these games don't deserve to be on there. Um, and Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of a bold take for to say that Spider-Man's gonna win. I would be, honestly, I would be pleasantly surprised if it won. Um, but yeah, to me, I mean, Tears of the Kingdom is my game of the year. It's again, it's one of those impossible games that you only get every once in a while. Um, it kind of, to me, it's sort of like the same way that Elden Ring feels a little bit like it shouldn't exist. Tears of the Kingdom also feels that way, and yeah, I don't know. I think Spider Man feels like a sequel, and Tears of the Kingdom feels like a perfection, I guess, is the way that I would put it. Um, so that's kind of why Zelda edged it out for me a little bit, but
Mhm.
we'll see. We'll see. I'm excited to see how it plays out. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good year.
yeah,
I
yeah,
I can honestly say I feel invested into every category mostly,
yeah.
and
There,
I can't say
sports racing. I don't really feel that strongly about,
right.
but yeah,
Aside from your given ones of like that like you said, sports racing and mobile games, I really don't care. Although this year I kind of have something in that regards, but
sure,
my point is, I'm going to be pretty invested in this Game Awards. Like,
yeah,
I think we're gearing up for a really good one this year. I thought last year was really strong. The years
yeah.
prior were not so strong. I think this year it's going to be a juggernaut of an award
Oh
show,
yeah, yeah,
and and that's not even including the surprises that they have in store. Sometimes when I
yeah,
go into these Game Awards, I don't feel so connected to every single category.
yeah,
So I'm just more interested in what the reveals are going to be. This one, I feel more along the lines. I'm very interested to see who's going to win,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the reveals are extra.
I'm super interested in the like uh seeing the way that the industry goes, because this is
Hmm.
very much like every like publication has its own game of the year
Yeah,
stuff, but this is like the entire games industry kind of uh,
coming together. Yeah.
yeah, they all kind of put their chips in and say here's what we think, and they kind of hash it out. So I'm interested to see where they go, like what direction they go.
Hmm.
um and yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely like, to me, last year was the best show they'd had in a while. um
Hmm.
and I hope they kind of continue on
Well,
that path.
I don't think they have much to. I mean, I think they already have a strong foundation. I don't think they have
Yeah.
much to follow up on. You know what I'm
Oh
saying?
yeah, yeah,
Like
for
I
sure.
think this year's so interesting and so like diverse of nominees. I
Yeah.
think minus the multiplayer
Yeah.
um uh community, you know, I feel like everybody has some form of representation, whether it's through horror. Like if you have a certain style of games you like, you're probably
Yeah.
in this
Yeah.
in this set of categories. And this year was absolutely, I will say on record, aside from being a Kingdom Hearts year, the fact that this was a Kingdom Hearts year and not a Kingdom Hearts year, and I had gotten fed so well, and
Oh
the
yeah.
fact that like Star Wars is on the bottom of my list
Yeah.
goes to show
It
you
says something.
how
Yeah.
great of a year it's been.
Yeah.
Now, I trash on Star Wars a lot, um, but it was still a decent game. I enjoyed my time with it. I had a lot of frustrations with it, and so I don't want people to think that I dislike Star Wars Jedi Survivor,
It's
but
just nothing
I
you
don't
threw
think
your
it's
socks
of
off.
that caliber with other games
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think that like to me, what I'm kind of hoping, what I'm kind of looking forward to is not like the. I'm looking forward to the show, and I'm sort of looking forward to the reveals. Although I don't know what those are
Mm-hmm.
going to be, so we'll see.
Yeah.
But I'm more looking forward to the little
That's
extra
for a
stuff.
segment at a later time. Go ahead.
I'm looking forward to like the extra stuff where it's
Mm-hmm.
like last year we had the Diablo concert, and a few years ago we had the Devil May Cry concert and stuff like that. Like I'm hoping for like a really cool. I mean, it would be really cool if we got like a Persona concert, or
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a Sonic song would be rad. Uh, I mean, there are so many ways they could go. I mean, getting the Game Awards orchestra. I mean, part of the reason I'm a little sad that FF16 didn't make it onto the
Me
Game of the
too.
Year list is because
I know it.
the
Yeah.
Game Awards orchestra isn't going to play a song from it, which is a shame. Um, but
Because
yeah,
Find the Flame would have been great.
yeah, Find the Flame would have been awesome to have on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it speaks to this year. Again, you could swap out the entire Game of the Year list, and I would not have been surprised. I wouldn't have been like up in arms just because there were so many great games released this year. Like a good half of which I didn't play. Um, so like yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing like what ends up happening. I think it's interesting because we're not going to get a lot of sweeps this year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think they did a good job not having too much crossover between the categories too. Um, because I think that that's something that's happened a lot where it was like, I mean, last year Elden Ring was in like half of the categories,
Yeah.
and it was sort of between it and God of War for the ones that they both won. So it was kind of it ended up being just kind of a the Elden Ring God of War show. And this year it's going to be a little different. Hopefully, might end up being a bit of the Baldur's Gate 3 show just because I think it's nominated for the most
Mm-hmm.
stuff. But yeah, I think it'll be fun. It'll be fun. It's always a good time to watch the show, anyways, because there's always
Oh,
some
absolutely.
shenanigans or some fun surprise. I mean, one year they had Crash. I mean, I think they've had
Mm-hmm.
Crash on every year actually. Like, there's stuff like that. That's always just. They also have oh, what's the? They also have Animal from the Muppets on all the
Oh,
time.
yeah. Last year. Yep.
Yeah, I think just last year. Last year we had the guy who came up after Miyazaki accepted the award for Elden Ring. um,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
there's always something fun going on. Yeah, well, I think that's kind of this one's kind of a shorter episode.
Yeah.
We're
But
sort
it's
of
also a special episode.
yeah,
And, Ezra and I talked about this off the podcast. We're going to be busy Thanksgiving weekend.
yeah,
So our normal time that we would be recording, so to speak, is now kind of
kind of out
not
the window.
out the window. So we I, we knew this was coming up, and we thought, why don't we do a special episode this week? Take Thanksgiving week off, and then return. Um,
Yeah,
then return because the other thing would have been here's the big issue. What would have been about doing another podcast,
hmm
um, either on Thanksgiving week or the week after, our news segment would be this.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It would
And
have
it would
been
overshadow
entirely
whatever news
this.
would come out.
Yeah,
And I think inevitably it would have been another Game Awards dedicated episode. And right before the Game Awards came out, I think as pacing wise, I think this was the best way we could do things.
yeah, absolutely. And
So
this gives us this also gives Caleb a chance for his book club project,
exactly,
so to speak.
which I've started.
Yeah,
I have started
yeah.
to
He
the
he sent
and
me a very confused
I have
text.
questions. Let's just put it that way. I
Yeah,
have questions,
as
and
well you should.
the list is compiling.
Yeah, I'm
Uh
interested. I so what I want you to do is I want you to
huh.
send me all of your questions at the end of your
Just
first playthrough. I won't
okay.
answer any of them because they will answer
Okay.
themselves. Or usually they'll answer themselves.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then,
Usually. Yeah.
we'll see how, and then after every playthrough I want to see how the question how few questions survive
Yeah. Exactly.
the
And heck, I might not even get my questions answered in this game. It might be me going back to Automata and like,
that's
oh, okay,
possible. That's possible.
you know.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that the game doesn't directly state in the narrative that
Mhm.
um, you kind of have to go in and like piece together. It's not like piecing it together. It's just like you have to go into like the articles that they give you and stuff.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
whereas like with Automata, they kind of tell you everything up front, even if you don't read that stuff. It's like a bunch of
Mhm.
the extra lore is
Right.
what's kind of optional. Whereas in the original Nier, it's like if you read the lore, it becomes a lot more clear. Like, oh, this is what's happening, and this is why this
Mhm.
happened. It's not just sort of something that randomly happens. But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
What was the last thing you did in Nier? Out of curiosity.
Trying to think because it's been a day. I did it in the morning. I only played about 3 hours.
Okay.
So I'm not too far in, but I got oh I just met
Kaine.
Kaine for the first time.
Okay.
So I got there.
Did you get
That's where I stopped.
did you Okay, okay. I know where you are. Yeah, you've still got a bit of a ways to go.
I got lost for about 20 minutes. I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie. I missed a ladder that was clearly in front of my face. Um,
I've been there.
and yeah, yeah. So I got a little held up there.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Thankfully, thankfully the first I won't spoil it. Yeah. It becomes a lot more sort of linear as time goes on.
mhm.
Um yeah, well, yeah, so I think our next episode is going to be a relatively normal one. And
Mhm.
then that next week is going to be the Game Awards. So
Mhm.
we'll be watching that live, reacting to it.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
you know, I kind of want to, try to involve other people. I don't know how to make that
Yeah.
happen, but I'll sort of mull that over. And yeah, I think we will kind of have, and then after that, we've got some ideas about where we want to take the show.
Mhm.
Some stuff that maybe we don't necessarily need to change a whole lot, but just stuff that we want to do, and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um. So yeah, Caleb, do you have anything you want to like plug or anything like that before we head on out?
Nope. Other than just keep an eye out for what we got in store because it's going to. I'm very very excited to get into the Game Awards
Yeah,
and watching that and
yeah.
being able to. I think we've had some really great thoughtful discussions over it, and it's time for us to see what's truly going to happen.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm very excited on that.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's gonna be really fun. Uh, for my part, uh, I've got 3 new videos releasing this week. One of them's
Okay.
already out, and that one's on the beginning of Sonic Adventure 2. So I think that
Okay.
has one of the strongest intros in all of video games. Um, the next two are one of them's another Honkai video, and the other one is it's a video about Persona 3 Reload and how I think
Gotcha.
it'll be the best version of Persona 3. So, uh, take a look if that's interesting to you. It'll
Mm.
My channel will be in the description. I have a whole bunch of other videos. I have a Spider-Man 2 review, an FF16 review, all sorts of stuff. So if that's interesting to you, go take a look.
Yeah.
Uh, and yeah, thanks for watching. And
Yeah.
I apologize, but I did in fact like that.